Imagine the safest place you know, your own bedroom under the covers surrounded by the people you love most. Now, imagine that safety vanishing in seconds. A stranger's hand covers your mouth, a weapon is pressed against you, and just like that, you're taken from everything you've ever known. This is the true story of Elizabeth Smart, a 14-year-old girl from Salt Lake City, Utah, whose abduction on the night of June 5, 2002, captured the hearts of millions and became one of the most followed missing child cases in modern American history. But more than a kidnapping story, this is a powerful account of survival, unbreakable faith, and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. Before we begin, if this story touches you or if you're new to the channel, please take a moment to like the video, share it with anyone who might find hope in hearing about resilience, and subscribe so you don't miss future deep dive true crime narratives told with care and respect. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Elizabeth Ann Smart was born on November 3, 1987, the second of 6 children in a close-knit, deeply religious Latter-day Saint Mormon family. Her parents, Ed and Lois Smart, raised their children in Federal Heights, a quiet, affluent neighborhood high above downtown Salt Lake City, with sweeping views of the Wasatch Mountains. The Smarts were known for their warmth, their faith, and their strong family bonds. Sunday church services, family game nights, music lessons, hiking trips, these were the heartbeat of their everyday life. Elizabeth, affectionately called Lizzie by those closest to her, was a gentle, intelligent, and kind-hearted girl. She had a beautiful smile, a love for learning, and a real talent for playing the harp, an instrument she practiced with dedication. She was also close to her younger sister, Mary Catherine, who was 9 years old at the time. The two shared a bedroom, where they would talk late into the night about school, friends, dreams, and little family secrets. Life in the Smart home felt safe, predictable, and full of love. But even in this peaceful setting, a brief encounter the previous year would set everything in motion. In the fall of 2001, the Smarts needed some yard work done around their property. A man approached the family offering his services. He introduced himself as Emmanuel. He wore simple robes, spoke softly about spiritual matters, and carried himself with an air of quiet authority. Lois Smart, always willing to give people a chance, hired him for a few hours to help with roof repairs and yard cleanup. He worked quietly, finished the job, and left. The family thought little of it afterward. They had no way of knowing that this man, Brian David Mitchell, had memorized the layout of their home, studied their routines, and would return with a horrifying plan. As spring gave way to early summer in 2002, Elizabeth was looking forward to the next chapter of her life. She was finishing her last year of middle school, excited about high school, and proud of her recent achievements. On the evening of June 4th, the family attended an award ceremony at Bryant Middle School. Elizabeth received several honors. It was a joyful night. They returned home late, tired but happy, and everyone went to bed as usual. Elizabeth and Mary Catherine settled into their shared room. The space was cozy and familiar, posters on the walls, stuffed animals on the shelves, the soft glow of a nightlight. Outside, the neighborhood was calm under a clear June sky. Like many families in Federal Heights, the Smarts didn't lock their doors that night. In their community, people felt safe. Just before 4 a.m. on June 5, 2002, a figure moved silently through the backyard. The man slipped a knife through the kitchen window screen, cutting a small, careful hole. He climbed inside without making a sound. He knew exactly where to go. He had been in this house before. Upstairs, he entered the girl's bedroom. Mary Catherine stirred first. She heard soft footsteps, a low voice. Terrified, she pretended to be asleep. Through barely opened eyes, she saw a shadowy figure standing over her sister's bed. The man was dressed in dark clothing, his face partially hidden. He held a weapon. Mary Catherine later recalled it looking like a knife or possibly a gun in the dim light. He leaned close to Elizabeth and whispered, "Get up. Come with me quietly or I'll kill you and your family." Elizabeth woke in confusion and fear. She felt the cold metal against her skin. "Ouch," she whispered as she stubbed her toe getting out of bed. "Shh, not a sound," he hissed. Mary Catherine lay frozen, heart racing. She was too afraid to move, too afraid to scream. terrified that if she made any noise, the man would turn on her next. In helpless silence, she watched as the intruder led Elizabeth out of the room, down the stairs, and out the back. Dokpur. Barefoot in her nightgown, Elizabeth was forced to walk for miles through the dark, rugged foothills of the Wasatch Mountains, up Dry Creek Canyon. The ground was rough, rocky, and unforgiving. Branches scratched her legs, stones cut her feet. She was shaking, crying quietly, silently praying for this to be a nightmare she could wake from. But it was all too real. After an exhausting trek of nearly 4 miles, they reached a small, hidden campsite deep in the trees. A woman was waiting, Wanda Barzy, the man's wife. She regarded Elizabeth with cold detachment. The man, Brian David Mitchell, spoke in a calm, almost ceremonial tone. He introduced himself as a prophet named Emmanuel David Isaiah, claiming divine revelation had commanded him to take Elizabeth as one of his wives. He performed a strange, forced marriage ceremony in the darkness, making Elizabeth repeat words she barely understood. From that moment, Elizabeth's captivity began, a long nightmare of control, deprivation, and repeated abuse. She was subjected to profound violations, psychological manipulation, and physical restraint. They chained her leg to a tree with a heavy cable. They told her the world believed she was dead. They told her her family had given up. They told her she should accept this new life as God's will. Elizabeth was cold, hungry, terrified, but deep inside, something refused to break. She thought constantly of her parents' faces, her brothers and sisters, the sound of her harp, the warmth of home. She clung to her faith, not the distorted version Mitchell preached, but the real faith she had grown up with. She told herself over and over, "I will survive this. I will get home." As the first light of dawn touched the mountains, Elizabeth could hear faint voices in the distance, searchers calling her name. Helicopters passed overhead. Her family was already awake, frantic, mobilizing everyone they could. They refused to accept that she was gone forever. But for now she was hidden in the wilderness, isolated, yet somehow still holding on to hope. As dawn broke on June 5, 2002, the Smart family discovered the unthinkable. Elizabeth was gone. Mary Catherine, shaking from what she had witnessed, told her parents everything she remembered, the shadowy figure, the threats, the way he led her sister away. The police arrived within minutes. They found the cut kitchen screen, proof of a break-in, but no fingerprints, no DNA, no ransom note, just an empty bed and a family in shock. Word spread instantly. By mid-morning, helicopters hovered overhead, reporters crowded the street, and the Salt Lake City Police Department launched one of the largest search operations Utah had ever seen. The Laura Recovery Center for Missing Children took charge of coordinating volunteers. Headquarters was set up at the local LDS Ward House in Federal Heights. At the peak, up to 2,000 volunteers showed up every day. Neighbors, church members, strangers from across the state, even University of Utah athletes who carried supplies. They scoured the rugged foothills, canyons like Dry Creek, Butterfield, and Spanish Fork, using bloodhounds, horses, ATVs, helicopters, and airplanes. Dogs tracked Elizabeth's scent a short distance from the home before losing it near a road. The community rallied like never before. Local businesses donated water, food, and sunblock. Pizza shops taped flyers to boxes. Thousands of posters with Elizabeth's recent school photo blanketed Utah and neighboring states. The family quickly launched ElizabethSmart.com, a website that let people print flyers, submit tips, and get updates. In 2002, this was cutting edge, helping coordinate the massive effort. Ed and Lois Smart became the emotional center. On June 6th, just one day later, they appeared on television, voices breaking, pleading directly to the kidnapper. "Please bring our daughter home. We love her. She's our baby." They described Elizabeth's gentle spirit, her harp, her faith, anything to humanize her and keep her human in the public's mind. They announced a $250,000 reward for her safe return, which grew with donations. Over the weeks and months, the family stayed in the spotlight. They appeared on national shows like Larry King Live, The Today Show, and Good Morning America, sharing home videos of Elizabeth laughing with siblings, riding horses, playing music. These glimpses kept the public invested and the pressure on police high. investigators chased every lead. More than 16,000 tips poured in over 9 months. Calls flooded tip lines, emails, faxes. Every sighting, rumor, or suspicious person was pursued. Early suspicion fell on several handymen who worked on the home, but one name dominated: Richard Ricci, a former contractor with a criminal history and drug issues. He had been arrested on unrelated parole violations shortly after the abduction. Police interrogated him intensely, and media focused on him as the prime suspect. Ricci denied involvement and died in prison from a brain hemorrhage on August 30th, 2002. The trail cooled, but the family felt frustrated. They believed the focus on Ricci diverted resources from other possibilities. There were other leads. A milkman reported a suspicious car in the neighborhood days before the abduction. A man named Brett Michael Edmonds was briefly sought nationwide but cleared. Police interviewed hundreds of people, but many tips led nowhere. The search shifted as summer turned to fall. The massive daily volunteer effort scaled back, but the family's resolve never did. They criticized police for slow progress and for withholding information. One heartbreaking missed opportunity came in August 2002 at the Salt Lake City Public Library. Mitchell, Barzee, and Elizabeth, disguised in robes, veils, and wigs, entered the building. A concerned patron alerted a detective. The officer questioned them, but Mitchell calmly said the girl was his daughter, Augustine, bound by religious rules not to show her face or speak. Elizabeth stood silent, hope flickering, but fear of threats to her family kept her quiet. Barzee gripped her leg. The detective, seeing no immediate danger, walked away. Elizabeth later called it a near rescue. There were more near misses. The trio ventured into public for food or supplies, sometimes spotted but not recognized. In July, Mitchell even attempted a break-in at a relative's home, cutting a window screen, but fled when scared off. As winter approached, the captors grew bolder, relocating to California in September 2002. They camped in dry creek beds in San Diego County, surviving on handouts and moving often. Elizabeth was seen veiled in public, but no one connected her to the missing girl from Utah. Back home, frustration mounted. The family pushed for more action. In October 2002, Mary Catherine, after months of reflection, had a breakthrough. The intruder's voice matched the man who called himself Emmanuel, who had worked odd jobs at their home the previous fall. Police created a composite sketch based on her description, but held back from releasing it publicly, worried it could tip off the suspect. The Smarts disagreed. Time was everything. After months of urging, in early February 2003, they released the sketch themselves at a press conference. It aired on America's Most Wanted and spread nationwide. Tips surged. Mitchell's relatives recognized him. The net was closing. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains and later in California, Elizabeth endured the unimaginable. Her captors kept her shackled, moved between hidden sites, fed her scraps. Mitchell preached his twisted divine mission, subjecting her to repeated abuse and intense psychological control. Barzee assisted in the manipulation. Elizabeth clung to small defiances, silent prayers, memories of home. She told herself, "They're looking for me. They won't stop." She persuaded Mitchell to return to Utah, sensing change was near. The wilderness had held her, but hope was growing brighter. By early 2003, Elizabeth had spent nearly 9 months in captivity. She had endured the wilderness, the constant moves, the hunger, the cold, and the relentless psychological pressure from her captors. But something inside her, a quiet, determined spark, refused to fade. Elizabeth began to sense that the time had come to return to familiar ground. Mitchell spoke of moving far away, perhaps to a distant city like New York or Boston. Elizabeth, careful with her words, gently suggested otherwise. She told him she believed God wanted them back in Salt Lake City, that their mission required it. Mitchell, swayed by his own twisted beliefs, agreed. In late February 2003, the trio hitchhiked and walked their way back to Utah. They arrived in the Salt Lake Valley area, still disguised, Elizabeth in heavy robes, a veil, sunglasses, and sometimes a wig to hide her face. They moved cautiously, camping in remote spots but venturing into public places for food and supplies. The sketch of Mitchell, released by the Smart family on February 3rd after months of urging the police, had been aired on national television, including a prominent segment on America's Most Wanted. The image was everywhere. On the afternoon of March 12, 2003, the group was walking along State Street near 10200 South in Sandy, Utah, a suburb about 18 miles south of the Smart family home. Two separate couples spotted them. Both had seen the sketch and photos on the news. One couple, out running errands, recognized the man immediately. The calm eyes, the simple clothing. They called the Sandy Police Department right away. Another couple did the same. Within minutes, officers arrived. They approached the trio calmly. Mitchell and Wanda Barzee stood silent, while Elizabeth, still heavily veiled, was asked questions. At first, she gave the name her captors had drilled into her, Augustine Marshall. She said she was their daughter, but the officers, sensing something off, separated them gently and took them to the Sandy Police Department for further questioning. In the station, away from Mitchell and Barzee, Elizabeth was asked again. This time, the truth came out. She confirmed her identity. The officers, stunned but professional, realized they had just found the missing girl who had captured the nation's heart. Elizabeth Smart, alive, safe after 274 days, was free. Word spread instantly. Ed Smart received an urgent call from police. Get to the Sandy station right away, no questions. He rushed there, heart pounding. When he walked in and saw his daughter, the room filled with emotion. Elizabeth was reunited with her family that very evening. Hugs, tears, disbelief, turning to overwhelming joy. Her mother Lois held her tightly. Her siblings surrounded her. For the first time in 9 months, Elizabeth felt truly home. The news broke across the country. Elizabeth Smart found alive. Headlines flashed on every channel. People who had followed the case for months, who had prayed, donated, searched, erupted in celebration. Churches held special services. Strangers hugged in the streets. The miracle many had hoped for had happened. In the immediate days after, Elizabeth began the slow process of healing. She watched home videos of her family, read thousands of letters from well-wishers, played her harp again. She celebrated a belated 15th birthday with cake and love. She even hiked back to one of the mountain campsites with her family, a triumphant return, reclaiming the place that had once held her captive. Brian David Mitchell and Wanda Barzee were arrested on the spot and charged with aggravated kidnapping, burglary, and other serious felonies. The case moved quickly at first, but justice would take years. Mitchell claimed to be a prophet, insisting his actions were divinely commanded. His defense argued insanity and religious delusion. Competency hearings dragged on from 2004 through 2010, with multiple rulings of incompetence due to his behavior, singing hymns in court, refusing medication. The case shifted between state and federal courts. Wanda Barzee, meanwhile, cooperated more fully. In November 2009, she pleaded guilty to federal kidnapping charges as part of a plea deal. She was sentenced to 15 years, with credit for time served, and later released on parole in 2018 after serving about 9 years, required to register as a sex offender. Finally, in March 2010, Mitchell was ruled competent to stand trial. The federal trial began in November 2010. Elizabeth testified over 3 emotional days, recounting the ordeal with composure and strength. She described the manipulations, the threats, the violations, all while looking directly at her captor. Her words helped seal the case. On December 10, 2010, the jury found Mitchell guilty of kidnapping and unlawful transportation of a minor across state lines for illicit sexual activity. On May 25, 2011, he was sentenced to 2 life terms in federal prison without parole. He remains incarcerated to this day. Elizabeth emerged from the trial not as a victim defined by trauma, but as a survivor empowered by it. She spoke publicly about resilience, faith, and the importance of hope. In October 2003, she gave her first major televised interview, sharing her story with grace. She testified before Congress in 2006 to support child protection laws and the Amber Alert system. Elizabeth emerged empowered. In 2011, she founded the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, dedicated to preventing child abuse, supporting survivors, and educating about abduction safety. She has authored books including My Story, 2013, and Where There's Hope, 2018, and produced documentaries for Lifetime, including ones about other survivors. She became a special correspondent for ABC News, focusing on missing persons cases. Elizabeth has said that the best way to overcome what happened is to live a full, joyful life. She married, became a mother of 3 children, and continues advocating for others. She often emphasizes, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." The night of June 5, 2002, changed everything, but the day of March 12, 2003, proved that hope, persistence, and love can triumph over darkness. Elizabeth Smart's story is a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, light can find a way. More than 2 decades have passed since that miraculous day in March 2003. Elizabeth Smart was just 15 when she returned home, a child who had endured unimaginable hardship, yet emerged with a spirit that refused to be defined by trauma. What followed was not just recovery, but transformation. Elizabeth turned pain into purpose, becoming one of the most influential voices in the fight against child abduction, sexual violence, and exploitation. In the years immediately after her rescue, Elizabeth focused on rebuilding. She returned to school, graduated from high school, and attended Brigham Young University. She served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Paris, France, a time of healing, reflection, and new beginnings. It was there, in 2009, that she met Matthew Gilmore, a kind-hearted man from Scotland. Their connection was deep and genuine. After a year of courtship, they became engaged in January 2012 and married in a private ceremony at the Lai Hawaii Temple on February 18, 2012. Today, in 2026, Elizabeth and Matthew are proud parents to 3 beautiful children: daughter Chloe, born February 2015, son James, born April 2017, and daughter Olivia, born around 2018-2019. The family lives a relatively private life in Wasatch County, Utah, surrounded by mountains that once held fear but now represent peace and home. Elizabeth often shares glimpses of family moments, hiking together, celebrating birthdays, or simply enjoying quiet evenings, always emphasizing gratitude and joy. She has spoken openly about how she approaches motherhood after everything she endured. Elizabeth wants her children to grow up aware of the world, to prioritize safety without living in fear. She has shared that her kids know the broad strokes of her story in age-appropriate ways, but she protects them from the details. "I don't want them to grow up scared," she has said. "I want them to know they are strong, worthy, and capable." Her family life is a testament to her belief that happiness is possible after profound loss, that happy endings are real. Central to Elizabeth's legacy is the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, founded in 2011 with the mission Bringing Hope and Stopping Victimization. The organization is survivor-led and women-led, focusing on 3 pillars: education, healing, and advocacy to end sexual violence. Through programs like Smart Defense, self-defense and empowerment training, often partnered with groups like the Utah National Guard, Smart Talks, educational sessions on prevention and healthy relationships, and We Believe You Survivor Stories, a platform for survivors to share their experiences and reclaim their voices. The foundation empowers individuals and communities. It works to recognize signs of abuse, support recovery, and drive social change. In recent years, the foundation has expanded resources for young people facing dating violence and continues to collaborate with national efforts against child exploitation. Elizabeth remains actively involved. In 2025, she joined advocate John Walsh of America's Most Wanted fame at the Utah State Capitol to push for stronger protections against child exploitation. She has spoken at events like those with Breaking the Chains in Fresno, reminding survivors, "Your worth is intact. You are not defined by what happened to you." The Foundation's work has earned widespread recognition, including partnerships that bring prevention education to schools, military programs, and communities nationwide. One of the most significant recent developments came in early 2026, the premiere of the Netflix documentary Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart, on January 21, 2026. Directed by Benedict Sanderson and produced by Minnow Films, this 91-minute feature is told primarily through Elizabeth's own words. It includes exclusive interviews with her family members, including her sister Mary Catherine, who played a key role in identifying the captor, investigators, and those closest to the case. The film blends archival footage, never-before-seen material, and reflections on the intense media scrutiny, the emotional toll on her loved ones, and the community's tireless search. Elizabeth has said the project was about ownership over her story. After years of others telling it, from early TV movies to lifetime dramatizations, she wanted to control the narrative, providing context and hope. In promotional statements, she expressed, "I hope it brings comfort that there are happy endings, and that even after terrible things happen, you can still have a wonderful life." She also hopes viewers gain compassion for families in crisis and realize survivors are not alone. The documentary revisits the psychological impact, the pressure on investigators, and Elizabeth's journey of healing. It highlights her message: resilience is possible. "I wanted to have some ownership over my story," she shared ahead of the release. The film has reignited national conversations about abduction prevention, survivor support, and the long-term effects of trauma, all while celebrating Elizabeth's transformation from victim to advocate. Through her books, My Story, 2013, and Where There's Hope, 2018, Elizabeth has shared lessons on forgiveness, strength, and moving forward. She has produced other survivor-focused projects for Lifetime, including stories like The Girl Who Escaped, The Cara Robinson Story, and Abducted by My Teacher, The Elizabeth Thomas Story. She has testified before Congress, supported Amber Alert improvements, and become a special correspondent for news outlets, shining light on missing persons cases. Elizabeth often reflects on the power of hope. She says the day of her rescue, March 12th, is her biggest miracle, a reminder that miracles happen and good things are worth gratitude. She encourages others. "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Her story is a beacon for survivors. Everywhere, it shows that darkness does not have the final word. With family, faith, purpose, and community, healing is possible. Elizabeth Smart's life today, filled with love, advocacy, and quiet strength, proves that even after the deepest night, dawn can come. As we close this chapter, remember, stories like Elizabeth's remind us to stay vigilant, compassionate, and hopeful. If this narrative moved you, if it sparked thoughts about resilience, safety, or supporting survivors, please hit that like button to show appreciation, share it with someone who might need inspiration today, and subscribe for more respectful, in-depth true crime stories that honor real people and real hope. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay strong, and never lose faith in the power of light over darkness.